provide this report to members after the meeting.
Question 3, Mr. Chan Pui-leung. President, there are views that on the premise of not affecting public services, public museums should proactively expand diversified revenue channels. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1, whether it has compiled statistics on the 1, income to expenditure, 3, total attendance, and 4, average facility utilization rate of all museums under the LCSD and the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority, respectively, in each of the past 5 years. 2, the respective annual remuneration of the top 5 senior management personnel of the Hong Kong Palace Museum and Empress since the official commencement of operations. Moreover, as it is reported that over 10 self-service donation kiosks will be installed at various venues across the West Kowloon Cultural District starting from the 1st of this month to encourage members of the public to support the development of arts and culture, whether it knows the expenditure on purchasing such donation kiosks, the estimated maintenance costs, and the estimated amount of donations to be received in the next 3 years, and 3, of the latest progress, costs involved, and expected economic gains of the authority's introduction of market-based business models into museums under the LCSD, whether there are plans to promote collaborations between museums under the LCSD and private enterprises for strategic brand crossovers and franchising so as to develop more diversified revenue sources. Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism. President, museums play a vital role in cultural inheritance and social education. The government continuously reviews the development and future plans of the 15 museums under the LCSD in order to meet the general public's need for museums and art appreciation. Meanwhile, to promote the diverse development of Hong Kong's local cultural ecosystem, the government drives the development of the West Kowloon Cultural District project, providing the relevant authority with a one-off upfront endowment of $21.6 billion and the development rights of the land within the cultural district for constructing and operating the project on a self-financing basis. My reply to the question raised by Mr. Chen is as follows. 1. The public mission of museums under the LCSD is to preserve and promote tangible and intangible cultural heritage, in addition to organizing exhibitions. The museums are also actively providing broad access to cultural education and services. Since August 2016, with the approval of the LegCo, the government has been offering free admission to permanent exhibitions of museums while charging a modest admission fee for the permanent exhibitions of the Hong Kong Science Museum and the Hong Kong Space Museum to meet their operational needs. This arrangement is in line with the practice adopted by public museums in the mainland, where permanent exhibitions are generally open to the public free of charge. Although LCSD museums are not operated primarily for profit, they actively generate revenue from various sources, including ticket sales, film screenings, license fees from shops and cafes, rental charges, and sales of cultural and creative products. For the West Kowloon Cultural District, both Empress and the Hong Kong Palace Museum have proactively expanded their revenue streams. A number of exhibitions and cultural and creative products have been well received. Currently, admission, income, sponsorships, and commercial revenue each accounts for about 1/3 of the total income. The combined income of the two museums in 2025-2026 increased by more than 20% compared to the previous year. The detailed data of the museums under LCSD and the West Kowloon Cultural District are set out in Annex 1. 2. There are a total of 7 senior executives in the 2 museums of the West Kowloon Cultural District, with the total remuneration expenditure amounting to approximately $20.9 million in 2025 to 2026. When determining the pay adjustment, the authority takes into account multiple factors. Please refer to Annex 2 for details. Fundraising income is one of the most important income sources of West Kowloon Cultural District and accounts for about 1/3 of the overall recurrent operating income. In 2025-2026, the fundraising income of the authority reached $219 million, representing an increase of over 30% compared to the previous financial year. The authority draws on the experience of overseas cultural institutions in attracting individual donations and installed self-service donation kiosks in the museum's performing arts venues and other venues of the cultural district since 1st of July this year. There is no additional cost implication to the authority as the self-service donation kiosks are developed and manufactured by a tech company which will also cover the operating expenses. The objective of the authority is to foster public support and participation in development of arts and culture. 3. The 2025 policy address has announced that the LCSD will introduce market-based business models in designated facilities to provide more diverse value-added activities. These include leasing out museums on their closing days for commercial or private use and opening up more venues for hire. In this connection, the LCSD invited the submission of expressions of interest at the end of 2025 regarding the introduction of a market-oriented operational model. A total of 14 expressions of interest were received. The respondents included organizations engaged in event or advertising planning, property management, property development companies. The LCSD increased the number of venues available for hire in the tender in response to the suggestions made in the expressions of interest and invited tenders in April 2026 for introducing market-based business models at the 26 designated LCSD facilities, including the Hong Kong Museum of Art and the Hong Kong Science Museum. It is anticipated that operators will be appointed by the end of 2026. The associated revenue and costs will be subject to the monthly fee levels proposed by successful bidders and the actual expenses. The LCSD has all along welcomed crossover collaborations with corporations and commercial brands to leverage their branding impact to promote museum activities. Crossover products previously launched through collaborations between the museums and commercial brands include phone cases, food products, and brick sets. The LCSD will continue to explore more collaborative initiatives under market-based business models. Mr. Chan Pui-leung. Thank you, President. The LCSD museums prioritize the mission of public education and promotion of culture. They are not for profit, but they have a less than ideal financial position. They only have a self-financing ratio of 6.7%, much lower than the percentage of mainland and overseas, where it is over 60%. There are individual museums that would have a lower percentage, but it would still be 20%. Would the administration consider looking into the examples in other places and have regard to the local circumstances to set specific performance indicators for self-financing percentages of LCSD museums so that museums will not overly rely on public money and try to develop new revenue sources and save costs? Thank you. We have 13 members waiting to speak. Please be succinct in your questions and replies. Thank you. Secretary. President, as I said in the main reply, the LCSD is more than willing to open some facilities for interested organizations to hold commercial activities. So there is a potential revenue source, but LCSD museums, after all, have an important mission of promotion of culture and public education. We can't overly commercialize the museums. We also have a policy goal recently to attract more youth to museums. We have been encouraging more schools, starting at the primary school level, to visit museums to foster cultural understanding in the students. And if we have museums that provide content specifically on patriotic education, it can nurture patriotism among the students. Our museums can't really compare to other museums overseas that have a long history, but we do note the members' observations. We will work with different designers and commercial brands to perhaps develop more artistic products. As for whether museums can operate on a self-financing basis, as I said in the main reply, since 2016, receiving approval from the Legislative Council, many museums offer free admission, which is why, while we do see an increase in attendance at the museums, we do not see a significant increase in revenue of the museums. Mr. Kingsley Wong, thank you. I am concerned about patriotic education, and museums are an important source for people to learn more about the country's history and achievements. We have had very successful exhibitions held for the 80th anniversary of the War of Resistance. I want to ask, since it is the 90th anniversary of another important event for the country this year, will we host specific exhibitions so that students can learn, or the general public can learn more about being resilient and committed to our vision? Thank you. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Kingsley Wong, for your question. We have all along been organizing activities and exchanges to promote patriotic education. We worked on the History of China series, and we have now a third exhibition in the series on Chang'an. Last year, we also have a specific exhibition on the 80th anniversary of the victory of War of Resistance, and in the Space Museum we have an exhibition on aerospace achievements of the country, 是在Shenzhou 23, and they have been well received by the public. And this year is the 90th anniversary of the victory of the Long March. We have much content we can work on patriotism. We have signature content with our collaboration with the CCTV. We have obtained rights to an 8-episode program on the victory of the Long March. We also have specific boutique study tour routes about the Long March. I hope that the general public, apart from visiting museums, will also make good use of these online resources available from the museums. I said in a previous social media post, well, the president also talked about this. It is not a movie introduced by the SCSC, but we encourage people to watch a particular movie on the Long March to embrace the history. Thank you, Ms. Maggie Chen. Thank you, President. The Egyptian exhibition at the Palace Museum has been well received, and relevant products such as the Pharaoh cat mascot has been well received by the public. It has brought about $30 million in revenue. But at other times, the LCMSC museums don't really have popular artistic products available. And according to the paper, we have seen a decline in revenue, attendances, and in fact, facility utilization rate. I want to ask, apart from engaging operators, does the administration have in mind what to do to seize the opportunity of creative and artistic products so that we can increase the flow of people as well as people's incentives to buy artistic products? Thank you. Secretary, thank you, Ms. Chen, for the questions. We do believe creative products are important attractions for visitors, and it is also a vessel of cultural inheritance. We have talked much about the Pharaoh cat of the Egyptian exhibition. We will continue to develop artistic products, but we can only do so for the longer exhibitions. The Egyptian exhibition is supposed to last for more than 6 months. With longer exhibitions, there is better commercial potential. For the short-term exhibitions, if we develop products, it may not bring about great economic gains. We have also collaborated with famous bakers in the city to have some pastry sets. We can perhaps introduce to you such sets after the meeting. We have also developed brick sets. We want to make good use of our IP in developing such brick sets. Of course, the more the merrier. If we can do more, it would be better. But we have not been working hard for profit before, but I guess we can be more ambitious. Thank you. Mr. Kenneth Fogg. According to an earlier report, there is something about the governance structure of museums. It is suggested that the government should enhance civic society participation in management of public museums and developing new resources. The government's reply then is that they would carefully consider the suggestion and they would set up an advisory committee. And the advisory committee was set up in 2016. It has been 10 years. We want to really adopt the principle of capable government and efficient market. What progress have we made so far? Can we perhaps have trusts for the management and development of future museums? Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Fogg, for reminding us of the history. Museums in Hong Kong are operated in different ways. The West Kowloon Cultural District is operated by a board of directors and not a board of trustees. We have the government managing the LCSD museums because, as I said earlier, the LCSD museums have an important mission of public education and promotion of culture and promotion of specifically patriotic education. If the government can have the reins, I believe it would be safer. But indeed, the approach of management by board of trustees is quite prevalent in overseas, and the board of trustees may even be able to provide funding for the operations of museums. We will see if this approach can be of reference to us. We do have a museum advisory committee. We have some LegCo members who are members of the advisory committee. On the membership, we also have some famous collectors or stakeholders in the sector. We thank them for providing advice. We also pay close attention to the development of such facilities. Thank you. Mr. Albert Trong, the government is planning to construct 8 new museums, and half of them will be in the Northern Metropolis. We will have 2 museums open in 2018. The other new museums do not have a timeline for commissioning. There may not even be a theme just yet. For the new museums, especially the museums that are going to be in Northern Metropolis, what are your preliminary plans? What themes will they have? Secretary, the speaker's microphone is not on. Excuse me, I dropped the mic. Thank you, Mr. Albert Trong, for your question. Indeed, we have several museums planned in the Northern Metropolis. The main one that we are working on is to have a museum that talks about the country's achievements and development. We have been conducting a feasibility study for our preliminary planning and detailed design work. For this specific museum, we will need to report on our budget to the council in due course and apply for funding. For this museum that introduces the country's developments and achievements, we have planned that next year we will consult the Museum Advisory Committee and we will come back to the Legislative Council after that as soon as possible to apply for funding approval from the Finance Committee. The project is to be of a large scale because the museum for introducing the country's achievements should be quite large. We have a time frame of 4 years. We expect to complete the relevant project by Q4 of 2033. Thank you. Mr. Shu Ka-fai, thank you, President. Culture is promoted in museums, and as the Secretary said, many museums offer free admission to alleviate the burden on the public coffers. Will you consider having public museums taking sponsorships from people who want to have their names published so that we can accept donations from these individuals? Thank you. Secretary, Mr. Xu, we already have this arrangement. For those who are interested, individuals or organizations, they may reach out to us. Some may not be providing pecuniary donations. If they're donating important exhibits to us, we may still publish their names. We also accept commercial sponsorships, especially with overseas museums. We have quite a number of organizations if we have overseas themed exhibitions. Since Mr. Xu gave us the opportunity, we would like to take this opportunity to call on different stakeholders or interested parties to sponsor our exhibitions. There can be quite good crossovers to be taken advantage of. Thank you. Professor Lau Chi-Pang. Thank you, President. I know that in the past, some museum venues will be available for hire by some external organizations. Understand in future we will have some market-based operational models in museums. How can the Bureau make sure with the introduction of such business models it can help museums without essentially privatizing the museums? Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, President. Thank you, Mr. Professor Lau Chi-Pang, for your question. As I provided a reply to Mr. Ken Fong, I said specifically LCSC museums are different from private museums and other public organizations' museums in that they have an important mission. And when dealing with matters relating to LCSC museums, we want to be prudent. We don't want them to operate on an entirely private model. And museums are currently offering free admission. Even if we make certain venues available for hire, we do ask the operators to make sure their activities would comply with relevant laws, and anything that would damage the image of the government will not be approved.
Question 4, Mr. Arbitration.